Hey everyone, we're in conversation with Daniel Lamarre. First of all, it's an honor, sir. You are an exquisite Canadian. For those that don't know, your career is incredible. Whether you were at, obviously, we'll talk about the Cirque du Soleil because that is an institution across the world, let alone for us Canadians here in Canada. We look at such respect for what you've done with the Cirque du Soleil. But I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, you've had stints at Casta Populaire. You've been at NPR. You've been in Bursa Marsteller. So there is a career of yours before Cirque, and sometimes it's great to understand a little bit of the man behind the mask, as much as obviously you're famous and have done so much for the Cirque. So I actually just have a question about your career to start us off, and we have this little fireside chat going in this session. What does leadership actually mean to you? How would you denote leadership as you look back both at your career of your leadership, but through the many different individuals you've worked with, whether with Guy, whether with the Beatles, whoever that might be? Just tell me a bit about what leadership means to you.
Yeah, first of all, what's important for me is that you are able to have and share with your team a very clear vision. And then when you have that, mobilize people behind it. What I like to do in life, and that's what I've been doing in every job I had, was to make things happen. And to make things happen, you need to have this leadership that people are behind your idea, support your idea, and then have the opportunity to deliver all together something fantastic.
Wow. And what's an example where you saw that come to light, whether your own leadership or maybe at some point during your career? Like, give us a kind of a personified example there where this came to fruition.
Yeah, as you know, I've been in different positions. So when I was the owner of a largest PR firm here in Canada, I had to mobilize our people to deliver the best communication plan for our clients. When I was at the CEO of a TV network, was to deliver the best ratings.
Yeah.
And here at Cirque, my job is to put together the right creative condition for the creators and the artists to deliver the best possible show.
You think that there's Cirque du Soleil, what an example. And of course, your time at TVA, Cogeco, NPR, like you have been in very creative industries, I would say. And as you kind of look out to other industries and the fact that, you've had to work with hotels in Vegas or venues and events across the world and the traveling shows with Cirque, what do you say is missing from people's leadership, given how much flair and creativity and innovation you have naturally, and as you've shown and through all your leadership roles and positions? But what do you see as sort of the deficiency, or what could people work on with their own leadership to get to the heights that you've managed to get to in your career and with your organizations?
Yeah, before I joined Cirque, I thought that I was really creative. But 20 years later, I have to say that I've learned a lot from Guy Laliberté, our founder, from the best creators in the world. We've been working with, the Beatles, with James Cameron, and observing our directors that are directing our shows really, really helped me to understand that I could push the boundaries of creativity much more.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, you've written an excellent book called Balancing Acts. What an awesome title, first of all. And then in it, you've come up with some really good ideas for us, the people who might not think of themselves as creative or innovative, but also in our leadership of self and leadership of teams. I think it's just a fantastic book. One of the things you write about is this notion of knowing when to step up and when to step back. And so tell us a bit about what that means, and maybe an example or two of how you've seen that occur so that, the outcome has been a positive one.
Yeah, the idea behind the book is, I thought, based on my learnings here at Cirque, that I could share what I've learned from, as I said, the best creators in the world. And the way to do it is there is a process.
Yeah.
Going that you are giving to your creative team and or to your employees. And it doesn't matter in what sector of activity you are, you can put together those process that will send a very clear signal to your employees that you are in the lookout all the time for new creative ideas.
Well, it sounds to me, and also obviously it's in the book that you believe in not just equality, but in the equality of ideas and where those ideas may surface from. It's not just Guy's show. It's not just Danielle's show. It is our show. So again, like, help us understand why that's so important when you're, I guess, listening for the ideas and wherever those ideas might come from.
Yeah, I think this is crucial, because if people don't feel that they are empowered to, come and debate and bring ideas, they have to have a clear feeling that their ideas is welcome and that they can disagree with us. They can debate with us. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the idea comes from me or from any employees at the firm. What's important, and that's a key principle of me, is that the best idea should prevail.
Oh, I love that. I think a lot of listeners and readers of this column will love that too, because there's so much in leadership that suggests it's, quote, the senior leader or the most senior leader that should have the ideas and all the ideas, which, as you've proven through many years of your leadership, and obviously, the last 20 odd so at Cirque, that it is coming from within the culture, which then segues to a really important question about culture. The Cirque du Soleil culture is one that is known for not just creativity and innovation, but almost like a family. When you have the tours, the troubadours, that's a family unit. When you have the shows in Vegas, that's a family unit. But even in headquarters, like, as I understand, it's a family unit. And so maybe it's not, quote, a one-to-one relationship family like we call our family, but tell us a bit about the Cirque culture and why what you've created is so important to be innovative and creative, and ultimately to satisfy the client, as you are obviously a business to consumer business.
Yeah, I think there is two very important things to be said about it. First of all, people today are talking about diversity, but at Cirque du Soleil, we never talk about it. We are diversity. We
Beautiful.
have employees coming from 49 different nationalities. And because of that, we have this mix of cultures, of people coming from all over the world, that when you're talking about this idea of family, you're right, but it's an international family. It's so rich to have people coming from all around the world, here in Montreal, in our creative studio, having the passion to deliver together a new show. That's really core in our values.
Oh, I love that. And that the line you delivered there, which I know isn't a line, people often, organizations have sort of had to wake up because of societal demands to focus on EDI, or equity or equality, diversity, and inclusivity. What I loved is you said we are diverse, we are about equity and equality, we are inclusivity, due to the fact that you, I suppose, right, crafted the culture from the get-go to be inclusive of all nationalities from around the world. I think a lot of folks could look up to Cirque du Soleil as a blueprint, right, to how they actually manifest their organization. So is that fair?
Yeah, not only it's fair, but there is a process again behind it. Because here at Cirque du Soleil, we don't hire people, we cast people. There's a huge difference, because when you cast people, you want to have the best people in the world, and that's what we do. And that's why I'm challenging our HR people to say, if we're casting the best artists, we should be casting the best people, doesn't matter in what sector they are. And that's a concept that I invite people to look at, because when you cast, you're looking for the best. When you hire, sometimes you just want to hire the most important available person.
Fair enough. I love it. In balancing acts, you have a line in there that stuck out for me, and that is, to be creative is to make yourself vulnerable. And that is a powerful line, for a few ways. One of which is you're linking vulnerability to creativity. Secondly, far too often leaders believe that they should be Teflon, nothing sticks to them, that they shouldn't open up their soul or be vulnerable because, that's the underbelly. Leaders are supposed to be tough and rigid and make tough decisions. So I just want to unpack that line and ask you, why is that line so important to you? To be creative is to make yourself vulnerable.
Because that's what we do. We are producing shows, and by definition, it's so risky. You never know from one show to the next if you are going to again surprise people, if you're again going to be able to challenge your customer. And our artists, by definition, are themselves vulnerable, because when they go on stage, they have to perform to a level that brings a lot of risk. So if it's true for them and they're the core of your business, it has to be true for us as well. They have to feel that we are sharing their level of performance, but also their level of risk. And that's what I like to do. That's why I want my artists to feel that I am as vulnerable and as committed to push the level of performance as they are on stage.
Oh, I love that. And is it, again, something you see that more leaders should be advocating for in their own leadership style, this notion of being vulnerable and open and transparent and honest with themselves and with the team so that that creativity can come to the surface?
In today's world, for me, this is a given. You have to act that way because people are looking for authenticity. They are looking and not only in a speech, but the way you act, because your employees are looking at your decision. They're not looking at your speech. They want to see, if you are by your action doing what you say in your speeches. And that's why you have to find a way for people to see the right signal in the action you're taking, and more importantly, in the decisions that you are taking.
Amazing. I love it. You start the book off with a pretty important story about how the Beatles' Love Cirque du Soleil show came to be. Now, I would call myself a bit of a Cirque junkie. I mean, I've seen Mystère, I've seen Zumanity, of course, Ka. I mean, I've seen a ton of the traveling shows. I've been to Tokyo. I saw that one. Hence the Tokyo backdrop for you today. The story itself speaks to me, without giving anything away, about the vulnerability that you just alluded to, because you were pushing for the creativity. So we can unpack it just with a couple of questions. The first is, you also have a resilience, I would argue, in your leadership style, because as you can unpack the story for the audience here, but basically things weren't going well in terms of what your budget was supposed to be and what the budget ended up being. So maybe share how your resilience and being vulnerable actually led to one of the most phenomenal shows ever. By the way, I've seen it 5 times. So tell me a bit of a Beatles fan, as you could tell, and I just love the introduction in that about the Get Back documentary with Peter Jackson. I mean, it's just fantastic what you've done, and you've eloquated how the Abbey Road, top of the building, at Apple Studios concert is like how you've come up with this. Anyway, I could talk for hours with the Beatles, but the story itself, I think, comes back to your resilience and your vulnerability to push for the creativity. So just maybe help us understand how that came to be and what you learned out of it.
Yeah, first of all, Guy, our founder, was becoming friends with George Harrison.
Yeah.
And we had this amazing opportunity to meet with the Beatles. At the time, it meant George and Ringo and Paul and also Yoko. And I remember myself, pitching myself, because I'm also a Beatles fan, and I was so excited to meet with them. But the one thing that made it work is because we never, ever give up. There was a lot of obstacle ahead of us. First of all, we have to convince them that we could deliver at the level of their brand, that we will be respectful of their music, Then we had to deal with the record companies. And then there was a ton of obstacles. And we just wanted to do it. So for us, the obstacle was just like an anecdote because we just want and keep pushing. And then we went to MGM, this amazing partner we have in Las Vegas. And, they were looking at the theater and they wanted to invest $30 million. And we wanted theater at the level of the Beatles and Cirque. So we
Right.
came to them and we said, this is the theater we want. And it ended up costing 3 times what they had in their budget. But at the end of the day, I can tell you many years later, they don't regret that. But it would have been much easier for us to say, okay, we'll work with this, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. Or worst, we could have said, we're giving up because it's too complicated. But there was no way that we were going to give up, because we thought that we will bring our own brand to the next level by delivering at the level of the music of the Beatles. And as you said, we won that gamble.
Oh, indeed, you won. Not just my dollars 5 times over, but everything about the experience, as you've shared in this book, really sets a tone for. And I believe there's creativity and the need for innovation, but you were vulnerable enough to ultimately kind of show up at lunches and say, hey, how about this idea? How about that idea? And dropping actual plans to what the arena would look like. It's in the round, and you almost, with that vulnerability and resilience, right? You laid a path for the Mirage people, right, to say, well, I guess we better do this. And it sounds like in the end, that's what they did. They came to the conclusion, with your vulnerability and resilience, that this is going to be the most creative show ever, and it's going to win over the hearts and minds of attendees for years to come. Which 15 years-ish later seems to be the case.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's why people shouldn't stop being in a position where they do compromise, or they do too much compromise, or they're too going away from their big dream. We had a big dream, and that dream, we shared it with the CEO of MGM, and we came to a position that was tough to say no, because we were so passionate about what we were pitching to them. And that's important too. If you believe in your project, if you believe that you will make a difference in the entertainment world, in our case, or in any sector that you're in, you have to be able to convince people that's the way to go. And that at the end of the day, everybody will win.
Can't leave you without asking a bit about the pandemic. Obviously, you are an entertainment company. Your business model, for the most part, is going to be bums in seats, right, in arenas and in traveling shows. So, how has your culture and your Danielle, your leadership style helped withstand, ultimately the pandemic? You're back running in shows again, obviously, but just tell us a bit about how you've handled a situation that's unlike any of us really have been prepared for prior to.
Yeah, that was obviously, a nightmare. I never thought in my life that I will wake up one day and 48 hours later, I had no more shows, like 0 shows, meaning 0 revenue.
Right.
And that was horrible. But, and I had to let go, most of our people.
Right.
And obviously people were saying, are they going to survive? But then again, we were convinced in the strength of our brand. And we have convinced our lenders that if they would support us, that the day after the crisis, the company will be up and running. And that's what they did. And they have invested $375 million to allow the relaunch of our activities, which says a lot about the strength of our brand. Mm-hmm. And today, they're very happy that they have supported us, because we're back on business right now, and it's going very, very well. But all of that would have been impossible without the strength of this global brand and our belief that we can regain the market the way we did.
Amazing. Well, as I say, the book Bouncing Acts, it's amazing. There is lesson after lesson after lesson in the book. Is there one or two or three that you want to end here in this interview with to sort of say, hey, an up and coming leader, these are my kind of key takeaways for you to consider as a leader?
Yeah, the one thing I would say is don't read it just as anecdote about Cirque,
Yeah.
but just translate our stories about how it could impact your own situation personally and professionally. And that's the first advice I would like to give to people. And then here and there, I think you have to start with an open mind about how reading this book will open up your own creativity, because that's my ultimate goal. I would love, after someone has read the book, to say it's opened up my creativity. It's inspiring me. It's pushing me to be more creative in my life. And at the end of it, my personal life is more fun. My professional life is more exciting, and I'm delivering more than I thought I could by being more creative. That's my ultimate goal with the book.
Love it. As a Canadian, as someone who has married a French Canadian, as someone who has spent 5 years in Montreal, as a fan of Cirque du Soleil, it's been an honor, Daniel Lamarre. Thank you so much for the time. Learned a lot, and good luck with the book. Good luck with the rest of your storied career.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers.